And we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Dr. Mohamad Roshdy, the economic expert. Dr. Mohamad, a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you.
Right. Doctor, how do you see the President's speech during the 29th annual meetings of the African Export-Import Bank, which was held at the new administrative capital, sir?
First of all, I want to say good evening to you and our audience. And I would like to thank all of the program team for this kind invitation.
Thank you very much.
Today. Thank you. Actually, I would like to highlight that this meeting is one of the most important meetings that on annual basis is happening. Actually, in this meeting, Egypt, the President Sisi highlighted that Egypt has spent about 500 billion over the past 7 years. What is the objective of this thing? The objective of this thing is to achieve the development goals and meet the needs of the Egyptian people. Also, he highlighted loudly, the President Sisi, that the infrastructure must be developed in Africa to change the face of the North Africa continent. Actually, I would like to highlight most important thing, that Africa is the future, in my humble opinion, of the world. We can realize easily that the developing countries, actually, they are considering Africa as the emerging market or the potential market in the future. In a nutshell, I would like to highlight just a small few things before I enter to the today's topic, which is, if we compare Africa with Europe, for example, we can consider Africa as a youth continent. Eventually, why we are saying that? If you compare it to Europe, the age of the pyramid age for the population, the majority in Africa is youth. For that reason, we can call it easily that it is a youth continent. Despite the fact in Europe, the majority of people or the population, they are older people. The average age is more than 50 for the total population.
Yes.
Starting from this point, we can consider Africa the most important continent for globally for developed country actually to sell their products and their manufacturing in coming days.
Yes, indeed.
Despite this fact, President Sisi highlighted that the infrastructure in Africa must be ready for development. Also noting that infrastructure projects must be implemented to achieve African integration and aligned with the global
African agenda,
which is to go green and to have a sustainable source of energy and developing in a proper way to support our country and community and continent and support the globe at all. And he highlighted that one of the most important things, that security stability is the key requirement to achieve the economic investment in Africa countries.
Yes.
Also, President Sisi elaborated, pointing out that political implementation in Africa is linked to economic capacity, and also he highlighted the cost of cultivating 1 million fadens amounts to 200 billion, Egypt equivalent to $300 billion, and he highlighted one of the most important things in my humble opinion, which is the Ukrainian
situation,
war that affects globally in a lot of things, and it leads to one of the most inflation hikes globally. For example, if we, as you know, and our audience, two things are the most important things for people nowadays. the wheat and the energy.
Yes.
And we can say that the wheat jumped, as far as I recall, in May 2021. Its price was $272. Nowadays, May 2000, as far as I recall, last month, it was $435. The increased percentage, which is around 60% more or less. And for oil or energy, the oil barrel jumped from $67 in May 2021 to reach this May 2020 to $112. The increased percentage reached to 67%. And actually, this leads to a global inflation wave. And as you know, and our audience, there's something which is crucial, I believe, that there's a Maslow pyramid hierarchy of needs, which highlighted that the most crucial need for population or people, which is food, and after that, the physiological needs or the basic needs, which includes food, beverage, and then after that for safety, and then after that for self-belonging and self-actualization. If we focus on the first thing, which is actually the physiological needs, we can realize that there's a global need to the wheat, and the Ukrainian invasion war negatively reflected on this pricing, and how this negatively reflects on the global
scene,
countries on the globe in general,
and
this leads to that the central banks globally increased the interest rate, and nowadays, from as far as I recall, more than 14 years ago, the Federal decided this month to increase the interest rate by 75 basis points. This is the first. This is the high 14 years ago. And imagine, for that reason, we have to work closely as one continent in Africa to achieve the sustainable goals and to integrate between each other. And this possibly will reflect on a lot of things and enhance our continent's GDP.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Mohamad. Also, as you mentioned, Africa contains, one of the world's most important natural resources. How do you see, the utilization of this? How can Africa as a continent become self-sufficient? And what do you think as well of the, situation in the African continent and the issue that the president raised for the need to get rid of conflict and lack of security in the African continent and between African countries as the only way to move forward for the continent?
In my humble opinion, you are asking a great question. We can summarize this question. Actually, can summarize a lot of things to our audience. I would like to answer this question by dividing it to two things or two questions. Actually, where we are now and where do we want to go? Actually, in the African continent, we have a lot of raw materials and a lot of raw things like oil, we have a lot of fortune actually, the agriculture, the water, in my humble opinion, one of the most important things, the manpower. We have the majority of our nation are used like 60%. Those things, if we integrated, we can, despite the fact we are just, we can say we are exporting raw materials to the developed countries, we have to work on it by doing a great infrastructure, solid infrastructure, increasing the manufacturing, and this integrating between the African countries, the integration between African countries will lead that we will lead the world in the future by the production, the manpower, the mines. Those things will enhance the GDP structure.
Yes.
And as you know, and our audience, the GDP structure consists of three things. The first one, which is agriculture, and then the industrial part, and the third one, which is the services part. And if you would like to enhance your GDP, you have to increase a little bit the service part, and it has a great or high added value. And this is what we are working on, considering this. By this way, I answered both.
Indeed.
Where we are now and where I want to be.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Mohamad Roshdy, the economic expert. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.